guest, and Sam gave us a little heads up on this, is one that I know we have wanted here at Think for many, many years, so we are thrilled to have him here this morning. Seth Godin writes and thinks about, among other things, the post-mass market era, the way ideas spread, leadership, and most of all, changing everything. You might know Seth from his books, Linchpin, Tribes, The Dip, and Purple Cow, just to name a few of his 19 global bestsellers. And his daily blog is also popular around the world. You want proof of this? Just type the word Seth into Google. It's right on top. As Seth says on his blog, for over 30 years, he has been trying to turn on lights, inspire people, and to teach them how to level up. So, to inspire all of us with some next level insights on the mindset needed to deliver positive change for the people that we serve, please, as he likes to say, make a ruckus for Mr. Seth Godin.
Thank you, and good morning. Thank you for coming to Florida. It's impossible to talk about Florida without talking about golf. I think golf is the worst spectator sport in history. I hope we can agree on this. There are two good reasons for this. Nothing good ever happens at a golf tournament, and if something good does happen, you're not allowed to wildly and raucously applaud. You have to do that stupid little golf clap. So if you don't mind, give me the worst, most anemic golf applause you can muster, please. That was terrible. Thank you very much. Can you double it? Double it again. And one more time. Beautiful. Thank you. That is what you do for a living. That is what each of us do for a living. What we do is find small little threads of interest and yearning, and we connect them, and we amplify them. We can't get people to do something they don't want to do, but we might be able to open the door and get them to do something they do want to do. That your job is doing work that matters for people who care. But sometimes it feels difficult to do that job because you're behind the eight ball, that people are pushing you to pedal faster, and it's getting harder because it feels like you're going uphill all the time. So here's some footage from a bike race in Italy, actual footage. This guy's in last place, and he's racing as fast as he can to pedal, but then he realizes maybe there's a different way to go about this. So he decides to try a new technology, a new approach, a new way to use the aerodynamics to get himself ahead. And so part of what I want to talk to you about today is what's in front of us and what is possible. We begin with this. What exactly do you make? Some of you think you might make interest rates happen or get returns or whatever, but I want to argue that what you make, very simply, are stories. And if those stories work, you make a difference, and that difference leads to change. And if you're not making change happen, why exactly did you go to work today? That our job is to show up knowing how to see, seeing the people we seek to serve, and help them by telling them a story, a true story, that will lead to change. So I don't know if you're like me, but I grew up with bats and dinosaurs in my life. And if you take any picture of a bat and turn him over, you realize he's not really a bat, he's a badass. Here are three bats getting ready for bed, but they're not really getting ready for bed, they're at a cocktail party. And the thinking goes that from now on, you'll never be able to look at a picture of a bat quite the same way again. I learned this lesson the hard way twice. I'll give you two examples. A couple years ago, I was walking through Ottawa. It was a beautiful morning, capital of Canada. I'm in this big pedestrian plaza, and I go, oh, Owado, that must be a First Peoples term. And then I realized I'm just on the wrong side of the sign. So this can be really expensive, and in your case, I think it's a profound warning. On my desk back in New York is this box, and the contents of this box, I'm not exaggerating, cost me more than $40 billion. Why? Because in 1992, I had something you did not have. I had a high-speed connection to the internet. There was no World Wide Web. There was just Archie and Veronica online databases. And I was in the book business. And I used this connection, of course. And I said, I know what I should do. I'll write a book about this internet thing. And this t-shirt, that's what's in the box, was the giveaway I gave to the sales force for the book. The book went on to sell 1,845 copies. It was a total failure. At that same time, two guys in California named David and Jerry saw what I saw. But they didn't make a book about it. They built Yahoo. And at one point, it was worth $80 billion. My half would have been worth 40. And all I got was a t-shirt, because they could see what was happening. Not me. It was sort of fuzzy. I wasn't wearing my glasses. They had a blank slate, and they said, what is possible? How do we take our mission and add it to technology? I said, what do I already know how to do? And that is where many of you are sitting right now. There is a huge difference between leadership and management, right? Leadership is going into the place where we don't know if it's going to work. Management, super important, is doing what we did yesterday, but faster and cheaper. Henry Ford was really good at management. Henry Ford pioneered, optimized the assembly line, and the idea spread. How do we get people, in this case the food industry, to do it again and again and again? Turn the dial just a little faster. The idea then spread all around the world, but it's still the same thinking, which is let's come up with a process and repeat it and repeat it and repeat it. Because we work for someone who keeps saying the same four-letter word to us, and that four-letter word, of course, is more. Get me more customers. Get me more market share. Get me more yield. And so we feel under a lot of pressure because we need the masses if we want more. And another word for mass is average, right? Average products for average people. All these products except maybe Pop-Tarts. Average products for average people. Why? Why make the average stuff? Because all of these companies want to reach everyone. And that's the challenge. That's the challenge you're facing as you go forward, because the entire world has shifted. This is a record album. I don't know if you recognize it. But in 1972, the record industry was perfect. You couldn't help but make a profit if you were in the record business in 1972, right? We had record stores, big buildings where you would go to buy a record. We'd get in the car and drive there, turn on the radio. Cars had radios in them that played the top 40. We had the senior prom. We had Rolling Stone magazine. We all know what happened. It only took a few years to go from perfect to impossible. Every record ever recorded available to everyone on earth who has a smartphone for free anytime they want. The music industry is gone because something impossible happened. That's what revolutions do. They destroy the perfect and then they enable the impossible. And if you're not sure it's coming for you, go ask a travel agent. Oh, that's right. You don't know any travel agents because they're all gone. The internet shows up and it says, bad news, good news. The good news is everyone on earth could now be your customer. The bad news is that everyone on earth is now your competitor. And so what we do is we go to our marketing people, we give them money, and unfortunately that's led to us branding ourselves to death. That what we're trying to do is say, we deserve your attention, and we try to take it. But that's not really going to get us where we're going. So in New York City, near where I live, 5th Avenue and 20th Street is the epicenter of the yoga pant district. There are 5 different stores within one block where you can buy a pair of yoga pants. The dreaded yoga pant shortage is finally over. And so if you're Lululemon, this is bad news, because Lulu used to get to say, if you want yoga pants, we're the only ones who have them. But now you have choices. One block away, a place where you can buy more than 400 kinds of cameras. Right next door, a place where you can buy every Android phone made. You can then pick up that Android phone and go online and pick from an infinite number of insurance options. So all of this choice and all of this noise is making it really hard to show up at your next meeting with that chart that's supposed to go up and to the right. Up and to the right gets harder and harder when there isn't scarcity, when there's a lot of information, when there's too much choice. So you can say, wait a minute, we came all the way down here. We don't want to hear all this bad news. Who designed this problem anyway? Who didn't read the instructions? And I get it. It feels really scary to face all of this. So we'll do one more moment of being sad, and then we can move on to the good news. The good news is this. Lots of times when you're talking over mojitos or whatever, people are asking your big numbers. How high is it growing? How is it going? How tall is your sunflower? But what we forget at all those meetings we go to is that tall sunflowers have very complicated root systems. And it's the roots that go deep that enable us to go up. And those roots, I want to argue today, are not about how secure your bank vault is. They are not about how thick your bulletproof glass is. Those roots are about the story that you tell to the people who choose to do business with you. So let's start with this. Fancy Feast gourmet cat food, it's not for cats. If it was for cats, it would come in mouse flavor. No, it's for cat owners. It's for the people who pay extra to buy it because of the way it makes them feel about what kind of human they are. That is a choice on the part of the consumer. They're not being a careful shopper. They're being a generous cat owner. I'm more of a dog guy, so let's talk about this. This dog food at the supermarket costs $1.50 a pound. This is $30 a pound. If you do the stats, the amount of money Americans are spending on dog food keeps going up. But as far as I can tell, the dogs aren't any happier. So what's the point? The point is we are buying a story. So you've been at this meeting. This meeting, we're going to do it in reverse, where somebody says, we just got to raise our interest rates. We just got to offer a little bit more bonus on the CDs. We just got to pay people more. It's about lowering your margin and increasing what you pay people. But someone smart stands up and says, no, that's a race to the bottom. And the problem with the race to the bottom is we might win, or worse, come in second. So some wise guy says, all right, well then let's go the other direction. Let's not pay any interest to anybody at all. And someone else smart says, no, our customers aren't stupid. And if we take advantage of them, they will leave. The only option is to be the only one, the one and only, the irreplaceable one. What is going to make you irreplaceable? It's not that you're the fastest or the cheapest. Someone's always going to be a little faster than you and a little cheaper than you. Sort by price is not your friend. You can go online and buy a computer in Russia, sort by price. Here you go, caskets, sort by price. You're never going to win on sort by price. You're going to win on sort by story. You know what the most important word in credit union is? It's not credit. Credit is super easy to get right now. It's union. That's the important word. What does it mean to belong to something? Ted Levitt wrote a great article 60 years ago, and in it he said, no one buys a quarter-inch drill bit. They go to the store to get a quarter-inch hole. I don't think he went nearly far enough. No one needs a quarter-inch hole. What they need is a place to put the lag bolts. No, they don't need that either. What they need is something to hold up the shelf. They actually don't need that either. What they need is the way it feels when their spouse comes home and says, honey, thanks for cleaning up the den. That's what they went to buy. They went to buy a feeling, and that's what you sell. There are a lot of mechanics you have to do every day. You do it beautifully. But what you sell is status. The way it makes us feel compared to everybody else. The way it makes us feel compared to ourselves. What story do we get to tell ourselves and our family when we're dealing with some glowing numbers on the screen that somehow, through 6 levels of interaction, are about actual money? Money is a story, and you are the storyteller. And you are there in that moment when that person looks at that number and is telling themselves a story. So we have to begin by asking 2 questions. Who's it for and what's it for? This work I'm doing, this interaction I want to have, this customer I want to acquire. Who specifically? What do they believe? What do they want? What do they dream? Right? And what change am I seeking to make? Who's it for and what's it for? So if we're not going to yell at everybody, what are we going to do? Well, let's begin here. There are 2 ways to get married. There are actually more than 2 ways to get married, but we're only going to talk about 2 ways to get married. The first way to get married is to go on to Tinder, swipe right on every person you meet until someone says they will marry you. This is a dumb way to get married. The other way to get married is to go on a date. If it goes well, go on another date with that person. Wait till the 3rd date or the 4th date before you tell them you're out on parole. And then You meet their parents, they meet your parents, you get engaged, maybe you get married. It worked for me, except for the parole part. Maybe it worked for you. So why aren't you dating your prospects? Why are so many financial service marketers spamming everybody? Because it's so cheap, so easy. Just tell everyone. We need average people here. You go to committee meetings and stand off the edges so that everyone will like you. Everyone isn't the point. For the first time in history, at scale, we have the chance to treat different people differently. That has never been true before. So if you went to stats class or anything else, you know about this curve. It's called the normal distribution. They call it the normal distribution because the 88% of the people in that box in the middle are normal, and the people on the edges are weird. And what you learned is that you need to appeal to the normal people. You need to be on the end cap at Walmart. You need to have a location and advertising and everything else so that the normal people will want to do business with you. Makes sense for a long time. Except now, not so much. Because when you give people a choice, they take a choice. The curve is melting. Bit by bit, people are choosing edge cases because that's what they want. And the people who are left in the middle are ignoring you because they don't have a financial services problem. They don't have a problem that you can solve. It's only the people on the edges who are going to the extremes, who are busy shopping around, who are busy moving their money, who are busy paying attention because they're on the edges. So if you're going to stay in the middle, of course we're going to ignore you. Too often, credit unions, banks, financial services companies keep saying, you know what, you can choose anyone and we're anyone. And if that's what you're saying, you're doomed because there's an anyone a little closer. There's an anyone a little cheaper. You're not going to be the anyone of choice until you figure out which edge you want to go to. I get that this is hard. We got taught to fit in. We got taught to follow the leader. No one goes into banking because they want to be a revolutionary edge case, right? That this is about service and reliability. That deep down, in the back of our head, what we fear, almost more than anything, is that someone's going to walk up to us and say, you know what? You're not as good as you think you are. And so we back down. And so we stand off the edges. And so we don't speak up. So how then do we spread the word? Well, here's one way to think about it. The first person with a fax machine, what exactly did he do with it? Can't send a fax to yourself. You'll get a busy signal. So the first thing you got to do is tell everyone you know to go get a fax machine. Your accountant, your lawyer, your partners, get a fax machine so I can send you a fax. That's how faxes spread. That Fight Club, never talk about Fight Club, is not the way we spread our idea. Instead, it's Bob Metcalfe's rule that the power of the network is the square of the power of the people on it. Meaning, this funnel analysis, I'm going to put a lot of attention at the top, and maybe down at the bottom, some people will become customers, some customers will become better customers. Not the answer. The answer is to take the funnel, turn it into a megaphone, and hand it to your best customers. What do they say when they talk about you? Because if they're not talking about you, no one knows about you. This is the idea of the purple cow. Cows are boring. See 1 cow, 5 cows, 10 cows, they're all the same. No one cares about cows. But if it's a purple cow, that's a special effect. I'm going to do it again. I like it so much. If it's a purple cow, what does that mean? It means remarkable. It means worth talking about. It means you will tell other people what just happened. So what does it mean when a bank manager calls up somebody and says, I know you, I remember you, I care about you, I'm not here to sell you something, I just noticed something, maybe you want to do something about it. How many people would you tell if that happened? It never happens. The big banks don't even know who you are, you're just a number. But the idea that we can be a human to someone creates remarkability. You cannot become more convenient than a giant bank, than a giant digital institution. It is a cost of doing business to have that technology, but that is not how you win. You win not by going for the largest possible audience, but the smallest one that you can survive on, the smallest one you can live with. Because if you can delight those people, truly delight them, put yourself on the hook and blow them away, they will tell the others. And it's only when they tell the others that you're able to make the impact that you seek. Super scary. It means you have to fly higher than you're used to. It means the wax might melt. It means we're asking you for something else. I get how hard this is. We live in a country where this is a real sign. Who else's risk are you supposed to play at exactly? But what we're asking you to do is bring some grit to the table. No, we don't do that. No, we don't chase that. But this we do. And we are willing to skin our knees and get up and do it again because this is what we do. Frank Lloyd Wright designed this house in 15 minutes on the back of a paper bag, one of the most famous houses in the history of our country. And then he handed the sketches to his client. And he did not say, let's have some focus groups. Let's paint it a different color. Do you want me to add some extra bedrooms? He said, if you wish, I will build this for you. This is what I do. If you want Frank Lloyd Wright, this is what I do. If you wish, I will build this for you. So don't look at this if you're afraid of flying. And I know some landings yesterday were hard. These are jets coming in for a landing. And what you'll see is that they're dangerously and dramatically off course. So they turn around, fly back to where they started, and start over. Actually, that's not what's happening. What's happening is the pilot is adjusting. That every plane you have ever been on has been off course from the minute it took off to the minute it landed, and the pilots adjust. That's what pilots are for. And now, it's cheaper to adjust than ever before. That now, thanks to technology, we can try things, see which ones work, do them again. That is your new job. Not to get it right the first time, but to sign up for a cycle of changing. Okay, so 4 words I want to share with you now. The first word, sawubona. Sawubona is a Zulu term. It means, I see you. It doesn't mean, oh, Jane, you're here, I see you. It means, I see your parents and your grandparents before them. I see your dreams and your desires and your fears. I see how money keeps you up at night. I see how money makes you feel satisfied. I see your family. I see you. Is there anything your customers want more than to be seen? To be truly seen, not as a number, but as a human? And if you see them, maybe you will earn enrollment. And enrollment is the opposite of mandatory. Mandatory education doesn't work very well. No one becomes a baseball fan because they studied the baseball textbook, did well on the baseball test, and then was allowed to go to the baseball game. We become baseball fans because we're enrolled in the journey, because we want to go there. Well, who is enrolled in a journey with you? Because if you're simply 1 basis point better or 1 click more convenient, that's not enough to earn my enrollment, to go where you want to take me. Because if you're taking me somewhere, if you're causing a change to happen, it means you have to create tension. The tension of it might not work. The tension of where do we go next? The tension of making decisions. We can't eliminate tension from any discussion about money, not if we want to make things better. And the fourth word is dignity. Because dignity is something that can only be given. It can't be taken. Dignity is the idea that when we see somebody, we can honor them by giving them choices, by treating them the way we'd like to be treated. So my rant here is about our revolution. We're not old enough to have been here for the Industrial Revolution. Some of you remember the TV revolution, but this is the connection revolution. What is the asset of Venmo? No buildings, no vaults. What is their asset? They only have one asset. Their asset is they are connecting people to one another. They are seen, they are trusted, they are heard. That is what the race is about, connection. And if you're walking around saying, well, I don't have that much in this box, I can't give you any because then I'll run out, you're approaching the question the wrong way. If you say, I don't have that much, but if I give it to you, we'll both have it, Metcalfe's law. I am creating connection and value. We are leaving this era of scarcity in so many ways because what we've discovered is that connection leads to more connection, more choices, more people to follow, more options. And so around and around and around it goes. But if we're still looking at it from insufficiency, we will never find the confidence to do what we need to. So tactically, how do we get to the next step? 5,000 years ago, Charlton Heston invented the idea of tribes. Tribes are groups of people who are connected by a costume, by a way of being, by some place they are trying to go. For a lot of us, we only grew up with 3 tribes in our lives, right? A spiritual tribe, if you're from New Jersey, a work tribe, and a community tribe. But now the tribes are everywhere. So you got the Red Hat ladies in 500 cities around the world getting uppity over lunch. You got these Red Hat guys. They pay $15,000 to compete in the Ironman, a race they know they're going to lose. Why do they go? They don't have water in New Jersey. They don't have roads in Miami. They go because the other Red Hat guys are there. That's why it's worth $15,000. These Red Hat guys train all year round for the big day. You got the White Hat guys, the Star Trek thing. I cried when Leonard Nimoy died, and I'm not afraid to admit it. So did a lot of other people. 50 years of a group of people seeing each other. So I'm going to time you here. Ready? Go. Okay, stop. 6 seconds. That might be a Miami record. One group took 28 seconds to get in sync. I was sweating bullets. But how did you know at which rhythm to clap? I made no eye contact. Gene didn't get up here and say, follow me. How did you know? Some groups are fast clappers, some are slow. How did you know? Human beings like doing what other people like them are doing. We like being in sync. Look around the room. Is anyone in a tuxedo today? Anyone in a prom dress? How did you know what to wear? Was there a memo? Right? Yes, good, because you wanted there to be a memo so you wouldn't spend too much time in front of your closet wondering what to wear, because you don't want to stand out too much. You don't want to fit in too much. It's got to be just right. Human beings like doing what others are doing. So guess what your opportunity is? Your opportunity is to find the tribe and connect them, to build a culture on purpose, to challenge them, to go to the next level, to communicate where you're going with enrollment, and to commit in clear language about what's on offer here. It will not appeal to everyone. That is fine. And it's okay that they're not yours. The Beatles didn't invent teenagers. They just showed up to lead them. Bob Marley did not invent the Rastafarians. He just showed up to lead them. So if you're taking notes, or if you only want to remember one slide from my entire presentation, here you go. People like us do things like this. That's your only job. Who are the people like us? What are the things like this? The only way to have people like us is to exclude other people. The only way to say things like this is to say this is what we do and not that. And if you're a visual person, here you go. Almost no one gets a Suzuki tattoo. This is an intentional act. It's a choice. It's a choice. You could create the kind of institution that someone would want a tattoo on their forearm. Or think about nonprofits. Walkathons don't raise that much money. But they have them because when you're on a walkathon, you look to your left and you look to your right. Oh, I'm in the right place. I'm going to volunteer more. I'm going to commit to this. Now, some of you are CEOs, but many of you are saying, I'm not in charge. I don't have the budget. I don't have the authority. So here's a story, sort of sad at the beginning. Until recently, in the United States, 4 million dogs and cats were killed every year by affiliates of the Humane Society and the SPCA, usually within 24 hours of being taken off the street. That was their job. My friend Nathan Winograd went to work for the SPCA of San Francisco. Not in charge, no budget, no authority. He wanted to change this. And he went to the city council and they turned down his proposal. Undeterred, he went to the people of San Francisco, but not all of them, just a few, just the weird ones, just some edge cases. And he said to them, will you help me? And in fewer than 100 days, Nathan Winograd had raised enough money, but more important, enough volunteers, that since that day, not one healthy dog or cat has been killed in San Francisco. It was the first city with a no-kill shelter. We say, that's easy, it's San Francisco. Well, Nathan left there and went to Tompkins County, New York, and did it again. Then he went to Raleigh, Durham, North Carolina, and he did it again. Then he went to Reno, Nevada, and he did it again. One person who showed up and said, "Follow me." That is leadership, not management. School is all about management. They managed you. Go ahead, let's try a little experiment. Take your right hand and raise it just as high as you can, please. Thanks. Now raise it higher. Oh, what's that about? Everybody holds back. It's not your fault. You hold back because in 4th grade and 6th grade and with your parents and with your teachers and your coaches, you realize if you give everything, they're just going to ask for more. That's what industrialists always do. They just ask for more. So we hold a little bit back. Teachers and schools and corporations have pushed us to fit in because if we fit in, then we are under their control because they can ignore us. And there's very little that's done to teach us to lead. But in this moment, leadership is what is required from you in your role because you have the chance to make things better by making better things. And the world is changing now because of this revolution forever. 20,000 years ago, the only way to eat in the world was hunting. Only 10,000 years ago did they invent farming. I'm still stunned by this. And only 300 years ago did they invent jobs. The idea that you would go to somebody and say, "Pay me money and I will do something for you," is pretty new. In Europe 700 years ago, the unemployment rate was 0. And the reason it was 0 is there were no jobs. And I want to argue that is where we are going, and we are going there really fast. No good jobs where you get paid well to do what you're told. None of them. They're going to be replaced by something I'm calling art. So let me explain what I mean by art, because that's what I am begging you to do. 1910 or 12, Marcel Duchamp nude descending a staircase. This was art. It caused a riot at the Armory Show. Jackson Pollock, he made art. But Jackson Pollock had a brother, and his brother's name was Charles. He was simply a painter, not an artist. The reason you've never heard of Charles Pollock is he was a hack. He painted just like his teacher, Thomas Hart Benton. He painted copies. We didn't need any copies. We already had the original. But art has nothing to do with oil paint. Joseph Beuys made art out of felt. William Shakespeare made art out of words. Richard Serra made art out of Corten steel. But back to Marcel Duchamp. In 1917, he stole this work, or credit for it, from the Baroness Elsa von Freytag-Loringhoven. He took her work and put it into a museum, and some people say it was the last great piece of art of the 20th century. The second person who put a urinal into an art exhibit was a plumber. And that's your choice. The choice is whether you're going to sign up to do plumbing or not. That phone in your pocket, it was made in a town in China called Shenzhen, a giant city, actually. I went to Shenzhen a few years ago, and right next door to Shenzhen is a little village called Dafan. And in Dafan, they paint 1/3 of all the oil paintings in the world over and over and over again as fast as they can. You can buy the Mona Lisa for $29, except it's not the Mona Lisa. It's a copy, and it's not worth $29 because it's a copy. So what kind of institution are you building? Are you building a copy, a shadow? Your best work, when you have a great day, what is your best work for? I want to argue it's for change. The change of making things better. And change has an ugly little brother named tension. The tension of it might not work. And so we go to events and say, I'm going to get all the bullet points. I'm going to come back with a map, with best practices, with a way to get from here to there. I can't give you a map. I can't even give you a fictional map, because if I could, it would be plumbing. Again, we live in a culture where this is a real book, where people pay money to learn to raise invisible sheep without making any mistakes. And I hope that you will take away from my rant, your competence is overrated. Your competence is overrated. It is not scarce. Because as soon as I can find somebody to do a job that I can write down, I can find someone cheaper than you. So you cannot go to the community and say, we have the best interest rates, because you don't. And you cannot go to a community and say, we are open 24 hours a day, which is more minutes than everyone else, because you're not. That there's something else possible here. The internet shows up. You've seen the free hugs video. It's pretty funny. This guy hates it. He worked really hard to be in the expensive hugs business. They don't care. Or think about the bottled water guys, right? For years, the bottled water guys have been telling us it's pure, which means it's all the same. I mean, they tried this, but it didn't work very well. So if it's all the same, just give me the close one, the cheap one. I'm not going to go out of my way for your brand. So here's the internet. And it says, here's a microphone. If you got something to say, say it. If you got something to share, share it. If you want to teach us, we're more likely to trust you. If you want to tell us the truth, we're more likely to listen. And so you're going to go back to work, and someone at work is going to say, we need innovation here. And then they're going to say, but we're doing something really important, so failure is not an option. But if failure is not an option, then, ladies and gentlemen, neither is success. Because all innovation is innovating again and again and again, failing, failing, failing until you find something that works. The person who invented the ship also invented the shipwreck. You don't have to get on, but that's the deal. So into some Italian here, advanced Italian. Salto mortale, the dangerous leap, the leap into the void. That feeling you get in the pit of your stomach just before you say the truth. And the thing is, just in that moment, you go, oh no, it's too soon. Let somebody else go first. I'll just wait, we'll follow. When Gutenberg launched the printing press, 94% of the people in Europe didn't know how to read, which takes years. He should have waited until everyone knew how to read. Not only that, there were no reading glasses because they hadn't been invented yet. He should have waited. Carl Benz, when he launched the car, it was against the law to drive in Germany. He needed this license to do so. Not only that, no real roads, no gas stations. Think about that buzzkill at the dealership. Or no all-night drive-through liquor stores. He should have waited. So here's the deal, folks. There's a big difference between being ready and being prepared. Whoops. Between being ready and being prepared. All of you are prepared. There's no doubt about it. None of you are ready, because you can't be ready for a revolution. Because to be ready means you're sure it's going to work. And if you've looked at videos of bike riding online, it's a wonder anyone ever rides a bike, right? That we are convulsed in fear about what should we do next, that something bad might happen. And so we try to protect against it, and we think about all the bad things that are going to go wrong, and I don't even know how this one happened. But the thing is, there really is a revolution now, and you are watching it happen the same way the newspapers watched it happen 10 years ago, the same way the travel agents experienced it 15 years ago. And sometimes you're going to find the wind is at your back. I didn't show you that whole video, so I'll show you the end of it now. This guy's got the new technology is working, and it's moving him forward, and he's very thrilled at this, because this wind at your back thinking that you finally got a return on your investment is thrilling. But then, as always happens, someone copies you. And some people look at that and go, ah. And I look and go, that's fantastic, because that's what we signed up for. The privilege of dealing with that noise in our head. It's an opportunity to say, no, 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 actually a shark is not going to land on our house, and that what I could do is fly even higher, because that's my gig. That's my opportunity. So this is my favorite slide of all. This is from the Solvay conference, which happens every 3 years. This is the best one, 1927. You may recognize some of the physicists. It's a collection of physicists. There's Marie Curie, 2-time Nobel Prize winner, Albert Einstein, Niels Bohr. It's said that Heisenberg was there, but it's uncertain. What we know, thank you. What we know is that there are 29 people in this picture, and 17 of them won the Nobel Prize in physics. And what we know is that almost all of them won it after the photo was taken, which means you didn't get invited because you won the Nobel Prize. It means you won the Nobel Prize because you got invited. So here you are in Miami at the Co-op Think thing, and somebody here is going to change everything. Maybe 7 people here, maybe 12 people here are going to come back next year with a story, with a case study about the change that they made that changed everything. Because it is always too soon to go first. That what the market is demanding from you is more hubris, not less. That when you go to work and say, oh, I'm too afraid to be creative, maybe instead you could say, I'm too busy being creative to be afraid. Because you have the resources, you have the trust. There is no time to sheepwalk your way through yet another meeting. All a meeting is sitting in a circle waiting for someone else to take responsibility. And as soon as you are willing to be a leader, you can take responsibility and just send a memo instead. And that will please a lot of people because you can make things happen. Here's a slide from one of my favorite movies, Singing in the Rain. Gene Kelly singing and dancing up a storm. And until this moment, you didn't realize he had an umbrella the whole time. But it's not called singing with an umbrella. It's called singing in the rain because the rain is the point. The vulnerability is the point. The point is, I made this. Want some? Because it's not like your customers don't have a choice. It's not like your coworkers don't have a choice about where they're going to work. They have choices. I made this. Want some? Leonard Bernstein famously said, I don't know what the question is, but the answer is yes. And then we feel like an imposter. What right do I have? They're going to realize I'm a fraud. They're going to understand that I don't know what I'm talking about. I'll just sit back. Here's the thing about imposter syndrome. When you get that feeling, you know what? You're right. You are an imposter, and so am I. When you are leading, you cannot be sure. You cannot be sure that it is going to work. You cannot be sure that it is certain. And that feeling is a symptom that you are on to something. Some people, you give them a mile, they take an inch, but not you. You have been given this mile, this trust, this authority, these resources. There are people around you who are waiting to hear what you have to say to them to make things better. So the last story I'm going to tell you before we have a little bit of a conversation is this. About 5 years ago, I was so lucky I got invited to this really cool event. It wasn't well publicized. My family got to come. There were playwrights and authors. And they invite us out for this campfire. It's in New Mexico. Everyone's wearing blankets. It's like 50 degrees out. It was, as far as I know, the last appearance by Neil Armstrong in public. And we're going to hear Neil talk about his journey 50 years ago next month with Apollo 11. And as he's getting ready to talk, I think there was some timing involved. The biggest full moon I've ever seen starts rising over his shoulder. And he stops, and he turns, and he says, I've been there. Here's the thing, folks. There are footprints on the moon. When NASA did the Apollo 11 journey, the sum total of their computing power was the same as that phone in your hand. And yet, there are footprints on the moon. So when you think about how difficult it is, how hard it is, what a slog it is, how risky it feels, to see how the world really is and to do something about it, I just want to remind you, not only are there footprints on the moon, but there are people waiting for your passion. People waiting for you to show up and to lead and to say, hey, follow me. Go make a ruckus. Thank you for your attention. I appreciate it.